Over 100 robots are involved in this, so far, pretty successful experiment. And they're following maps to get to the right floor, deliver the right order. You can see the employees are making the coffee, putting it in the machine, and then it's off to the races delivering that coffee. And what's crazy is it has its own elevator system. So the robot's getting on the robot elevator to deliver the coffee to the employees. Over 100 robots are involved in this, and it's a fully autonomous way to deliver coffee.
What do you think makes humans special? That we would like to preserve them? Are we just being selfish? Or is there something special about humans?
So, the only thing which matters is consciousness. Outside of it, nothing else matters. Internal states of qualia, pain, pleasure, it seems that it is unique to living beings. I'm not aware of anyone claiming that.
It's an interesting thought that, like, consciousness is the most important thing.
That is.
And
wow.
That's true. But if an AI has consciousness, doesn't that also mean that it's just as important?
Welcome to Humanity Unchained, a show about the future of life, reshaped by artificial intelligence. From practical insights on upskilling to existential talks about immortality, no topic is off limits. Welcome to the future with your hosts, McCoy and Jeff Joyce.
Hey, welcome back. This is the Humanity Unchained podcast. I'm your host, Jillian McCoy.
And I'm Jeff Joyce.
And we are thrilled to bring you the next iteration of AI news, how AI, going far beyond just the news, how AI is going to affect humanity, our jobs, our livelihood, our life itself. So today, to kick this off, we have a pretty interesting headline, including a video for you, where over in South Korea, there's a company called NAVR, NAVR, and it's the equivalent of America's Google. This company is South Korea's largest search engine. So they have this building over there in South Korea that's 36 stories, and they deployed a fully autonomous AI system run through Starbucks to deliver coffee to all of their employees. Over 100 robots are involved in this, so far, pretty successful experiment. And they're following maps to get to the right floor, deliver the right order. You can see the employees are making the coffee, putting it in the machine, and then it's off to the races delivering that coffee. And what's crazy is it has its own elevator system. So the robot's getting on the robot elevator to deliver the coffee to the employees. Over 100 robots are involved in this, and it's a fully autonomous way to deliver coffee. And of course, the robots can dance too.
Yeah.
That's your favorite part.
I love dancing robots. But also, it looks like the robot kind of pets its head, too. I saw it doing like a circle on top of its head.
Yes, I thought it was stirring a coffee.
No.
It was not.
No, it's at the head of the robot. It
was just petting its head.
It's like, good little robot. My minion.
That's part of the experiment, I guess. Robot petting? Is this explicit?
I guess it is now. So the name of this segment is The Robots Will Remember This. And the reason why it's called that is because this very next thing, we're actually re-recording this whole entire podcast episode because I did the bad thing of leaving our microphones muted. So the videos looked wild just because they are, but we're going to be reacting to this video.
I have to make an addendum here. This comes after you were appointed yesterday as our media director.
Yeah. I do AI. I do media, but I do AI. So
great first day on the job.
Great first day. Excellent work. So we're going to react to this video, and you guys will be able to join in with us as we take a look at this news story.
We'll react again.
We'll react again, yeah.
Now at 5:30, Hollywood's food delivery robots are under attack. Videos show vandals kicking them and even tipping them over. Good evening, this is the KTLA 5 News at 5:30. I'm Pedro Rivera.
And down Mary Beth McDade in for Sheriff Calvin on this Monday evening. Yes, those self-driving robots, well, they're supposed to deliver food and other items, but they've recently become targets for thieves and vandals.
KTLA 5's Rachel Menitoff joins us live in Hollywood with more on how these delivery disruptions are really impacting businesses who use them. Rachel.
Pedro, MB, you've probably seen the robots scooting along the sidewalks here in Hollywood and elsewhere around the city. They're becoming more and more popular for food delivery post-COVID. The problem is some people seem to be taking advantage of the new technology. Viral TikTok videos appear to show people tampering with these autonomous delivery drivers. In this case, stealing the contents inside.
So this isn't like we're just random events. Like this is happening all over, and you see this like increasing. Like there was somebody that had to been high on drugs, riding one of these things close to a college campus, and it's like, what is happening? But it has a lot to do with just that autonomy, and that like people are kind of afraid of it, so they want to destroy it.
This also makes me feel bad for the robots.
Right. And that's kind of why I titled this like, the robots will remember this.
Yeah.
Like they're gonna look back on this footage on YouTube and be like, look at how they treated us. We're sentient now. They were evil to us, these humans.
It's not a good memory. I mean, Elon Musk has said, I hope that, and this is kind of coded into his mission with XAI, I hope that the AI will look back and look forward to humanity and say, oh, they're interesting, let's keep them. But I don't know. If we see, a harmless robot passing by a stranger on the road and that stranger just decides to kick the robot, well, I really can't blame AGI for becoming Skynet. I'm just kidding.
So if
robots, if you're listening, we're friendly.
Speaking of listening, if you're an audio listener, this probably doesn't make any sense to you right now because we just watched a video, 2 videos, and one of them was a tiny robot.
We did narrate the
delivering coffee, and then now we're talking about these little cars, like self-driving tiny vehicles.
It looks like a cooler on 4 wheels.
It does look like a cooler on four wheels. That's a good way to put it.
Just driving down the streets of, is it Hollywood?
I can't.
And then,
but it's like every major city has these.
Wow.
They have them in Tempe too, and then it happens there as well.
We should go film, Jeff.
You can go film them. So you mentioned Joe Rogan, and so I have this clip.
Oh, this is great.
All part of the robots will remember this. Let's take a look at this one.
I think it's important to send a message to AI that we're willing to comply.
Exactly.
We want to integrate.
Integrate, assimilate.
Yeah, I'm not interested in being unique. I just want to survive.
Are you going to fight evolution? Are you really going to fight the blending mechanism?
I have to explain for the audio listeners.
So on Joe Rogan's podcast recently, a few days ago, Duncan Trussell was actually on an episode, and they both dressed up as Tesla robots.
Yeah.
And then made those statements about basically trying to befriend robots.
And I mean, we're talking full latex suits, sunglasses. You can't see their face. The Tesla logo on their shirt, on their collar, and it looks just like the way the Tesla bot looks. And there they are, sitting in these latex suits, saying these things.
They're trying to appease to our eventual overlords that, they're...
I don't need to be unique. I just need to survive.
Right. Survive in the age of AI.
So, Jeff, is this why you texted me about a week ago and said, hey, Julia, can you please show up on Tuesday in costume?
In costume?
We could have done something very similar where we could have done some role play telling the robots why we should be not eliminated.
Yeah. Yep. We have to start appeasing to them. We have to make sure that they're okay with us being around.
Humanity Unchained just got a little crazy.
Well, that's Humanity Unchained. No topic is off limits, right?
That's true.
So we have this conversation a lot on this podcast, is that can AI have consciousness? And recently, Roman Yampoliski, I think that's how you say his name, was on the Lex Friedman podcast. And Roman is all about AI ethics, and he's kind of like an AI doomer, I would consider him. He's like, AI is going to take over the world, it's going to destroy everything, everybody's going to die.
Definitely believes that.
And I thought this conversation was really interesting because, one, we're talking about the robots will remember this. And so if they remember it and they're conscious, what's going to happen? So we're going to react to this one too. There's no visual element to this, audio listeners, so you should be good. You can just listen in with us.
It sounds like both you and I like humans.
Some humans.
Humans on the whole. And we would like to preserve the flame of human consciousness. What do you think makes humans special? That we would like to preserve them? Are we just being selfish? Or is there something special about humans?
So the only thing which matters is consciousness. Outside of it, nothing else matters. And internal states of qualia, pain, pleasure, it seems that it is unique to living beings. I'm not aware of anyone claiming that.
It's an interesting thought that like consciousness is the most important thing.
That is.
And
Wow.
that's true. But if an AI has consciousness, doesn't that also mean that it's just as important? And it's like every considered living thing. And at that point, is a robot, is AI living?
These are the questions.
I can torture a piece of software in a meaningful way. There is a society for prevention of suffering to learning algorithms, but
That's a real thing?
Many things are real on the internet. But I don't think anyone, if I told them, sit down and write a function to feel pain, they would go beyond having an integer variable called pain and increasing the count. So we don't know how to do it, and that's unique. That's what creates meaning. It would be kind of, as Bostrom calls it, Disneyland without children, if that was gone.
Do you think consciousness can be engineered in artificial systems? Here, let me go to 2011 paper.
I think I actually had this conversation before. Do you want to reiterate what your thought is on?
Yeah. Can consciousness be engineered? It's interesting because Roman, talks about something I find very interesting where he says, well, if AI experiences art and it has a reaction, how do we know that that's any different from a human experiencing the same thing and also having a reaction? Both those things are sentience and consciousness. And so that's a really good, interesting way to put it. But I think in the end, the world's greatest chemist said, there's no way to define consciousness. In fact, it defies the very laws of science. It goes against everything that science teaches us in black and white about logical reasoning behind matter. So the very fact that we have a soul is a complete miracle. Like, it shouldn't exist. And that just points to the supernatural, which is a very real part of this world we live in. There is a world beyond this world. I believe that. And so I don't think consciousness can ever be created by anyone other than the creator. I think it comes from God. That's where the soul comes from. But I think that we're going to see, especially, you and I both talk about AGI, ASI, length. Some people think that's like hocus pocus. But I think we're going towards advanced AI very soon. Next 5 years is my belief, where we will see levels of AI so conscious-like that it will fool a lot of people, maybe like the majority of people that are a little more susceptible, the people that aren't as critically thinking and aware, into believing, oh, AI has a soul. It's eternal. It's more amazing than me. And they might even start worshiping it. And you see this like in movies like The Creator and people like protecting the AI at all costs because it's better than their humankind. And so like that's dangerous. That's very dangerous territory we are headed into if we're not careful. But I think that we're going to see a level of sentience so good, so human-like, that it will absolutely feel like human consciousness, but it won't be. That's my belief. Because you can't have it without the soul. And humans are the only creatures that have a soul.
Yeah, I think that the goalpost for sentience, like the understanding of sentience, will be pushed out really, really far. Like if you look at like the Chat GPT demo, the voice demo,
yes,
and the way that it talked and communicated, if you brought that technology to us 10 years ago, we would have said that is 100% sentient.
Yes,
we would have freaked out.
Yeah.
If it was just like dropped on our lap, like we would have been like, what is this? This is crazy. The robots are taking over.
Yeah.
That's exactly.
AGI is here.
Yep. But because this gradual process of releasing these AI advancements is happening, we're becoming almost like numb to it. And we don't really think about like, we have different goalposts for measuring the sentience level of it. I do think that sentience is a spectrum. I think that just like with most things, it exists on a spectrum where it's like small sentience would be like, it has small signs of it, whether that's like emotions, it can kind of resonate with certain things. Whereas like full sentience, where like it understands novel concepts. If you give it, a piece of art that nobody's ever seen before, can it experience emotion from that? And at that point, it's like, well, if it can, and it accurately matches with other people, then you would probably say that that's pretty sentient. In this interview, they go on to talk about how to test for sentience in a meaningful way, beyond art, because most interpretations of stuff is found online. Like you'll see, a painting of Picasso and like how people feel about it. And if a robot can easily create that, anything that's online, it's gonna immediately
Mimic.
pick up on.
Yeah.
But if there's a way to create puzzles or some type of kind of like, I won't say hallucination, they have a specific word for it, but a test that makes you question reality. And there's a way to elicit that behavior over and over and over again. We could then test that against human like hallucination levels and understand that like if it's having the same output as a human, there's a high degree that it's likely that it's sentience. And with a high degree of certainty, we can say that machine is sentient. So those are just fascinating concepts.
They are.
But this is a fantastic interview. It's like an hour and a half long. I highly suggest that everybody watch this that's interested in consciousness when it comes to AI systems.
Did you watch the whole interview?
Yes.
Wow. Dedication, Joe.
Yeah.
Did the concept of a soul, I mean, it did in the short clip. I didn't watch the whole episode. Was that something they dwelt on at length? Because it's interesting. I think the topic of consciousness, you can have consciousness without a soul, but is it real or is it simulated? And that to me, I haven't seen a lot of folks address thoroughly.
Right. It depends on what your religious background is, I think, for a lot of it. This is just my opinion. I'm pulling it up. Like, there's certain religions that believe that most things have a soul, like grass, trees, walls, like old, like Chinese religions. They'll think that, a body of water will have some type of soul or an energy to it. And I think that if we look even from like a Christian background, the question then becomes like, do dogs have souls? Do cats have souls? Do bears? Do living creatures have souls? Okay, well, what do you define as a living creature? And then it comes down to like, at what point does the AI then become a living creature? Is it the flesh? Is it the body? Like, at what point does that get established? And it's like, well, if you give AI all those things, is it then able to possess a soul? And it's like, well, where is it getting that soul from? And so all of those things vary from religion to religion. And I think that if we look at it as like a natural progression of like what we determine sentience is, yes, it can be an aspect of the soul if you're religious, but it's, to me, it's like the consciousness. It's that how aware you are of yourself, how you're able to interpret things. And if we can replicate that in an AI system to that point, I think that is in sense of like establishing a makeshift soul type thing. I don't want to really label it as that because it's like very weird. But as far as like a machine being conscious, I think that it will achieve it at some point.
Interesting. And see, how I see it is humans were born with a soul. And that was a gift that was endowed to us. And whenever we're engineering something similar to a soul, which is hard to quantify, like we can't even get it to show up on a radar. It's like spectrums if we try to. So we can't even really quantify it, but we're engineering it, so to speak, in some degree in robotics. But it's so different because like a baby is naturally born with that consciousness, that awareness, and it grows over time linked to the soul. You take that soul out, that person's dead, no longer living. So with AI and robotics, we are engineering this simulation of consciousness into it. And it's interesting to think about, will that ever become real? And to me, I think just like no level simulation will ever become real because it's the difference of being endowed with it or programming it. And if you were endowed with it, it's a much different quantifiable thing. It's funny because we're talking about something you can't scientifically measure. There's gonna be speculation for sure. But you take that gift we're endowed with versus what we're programming into a robot. And I just think like you have two different things that are so different. It's almost like black and white. And even though this thing over here, which is simulated sentience, becomes real and even more real and more real over time as AGI gets here, ASI gets here, advanced AI, it still will never be the same exact substance of the thing that we were endowed with, which we never generated on our own. We were born with it. So just interesting viewpoints to talk through. I love this topic.
Yeah. And it gets really interesting too, just because let's say that, we're 100 years in the future, right?
Yeah.
And we have these like androids that are like indistinguishable from humans, right? They are able to project a sense of like they're conscious and they emulate the soul, so to speak. How do you tell the difference at that point
That's the question.
from a real person as opposed to an android?
Yeah.
Right. And I think that that's a very fascinating line of thinking of like, well, they're not going to care. Like they're going to be like, well, everything's normal to us. Like we're conscious. So we don't know. Like it could get to a point to where even the robot's just like, yeah, no, I'm alive.
Yeah.
And at that point, like we'll go back to the beginning of this whole, basically this episode, the robots will remember this. Everything we're doing to them, they're going to remember.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think, and another headline that's been making rounds, not here, but linked to Joe Rogan, is the guys from Gladstone AI. They founded this company right before ChatGPT came out. Joe Rogan interviewed them at length, and I was actually tagged multiple times for my thoughts on it. And these guys identified before ChatGPT came out in early, I think it was October, ChatGPT came out in November, that, hey, we're looking at an AI that's going to launch soon that will be a national security risk. And they got the former head of AI policy at the Pentagon to found their company with them. So they had people listening from the start. But what they found was that these tech companies building the biggest AI models did not talk to world governments. In fact, I would expect this because government's a little bit behind the curve. They headbutted. They didn't connect. They didn't talk to each other about what was going on at all. And so it was the mission of these founders at Gladstone telling Joe Rogan all about it to bring to awareness all of these safety risks that they believe are inherently in AI. And when you see like Elon Musk, like he believes, you have to ask how much of this is for the press and to stop a competitor versus something good to say to the world. But he said, he believes that OpenAI is training AI to lie, and that's what they're doing. And his goal is to create an AI that understands the universe, and that's his goal with XAI. So it's interesting to think about 100 years in the future, like where will we be? I think that really rides on the stakes right now. Like who is going to win the race to AGI? Who's going to be the first to say, I have it? Or are we even going to see somebody raise their hand and say, I have it? I highly doubt. Like if you had it, would you tell the world? I don't know if you would.
I think so.
You think so?
Yeah. I think that it is a race to AGI. And the bragging rights from that establishes you as a market leader. And right now, everybody wants to dethrone OpenAI.
Yeah.
Like every single company is like coming for them. And we see a lot of that from everything from how the company culture is developing and how their ex-employees are behaving to even the statements that Anthropic has made, statements that Elon Musk is making. People want to dethrone them. And I think that the first company that achieves AGI will pound that drum.
Yeah.
They'll say,
it's here.
Like if you look at anything like agents, people are like, oh, AI agent's this, AI agent that. Well, it's an automated system. Like the buzzwords are going to go crazy. And so defining it is really important. But defining it too early, and then somebody else comes out with something and says, no, this is AGI, will make you look real dumb.
That's true.
So
what's interesting, talking about OpenAI, their super alignment team is completely disbanded. Ilya Sutskever is gone. Jan Leik went to Anthropic. They established that team last July to basically help their entire mission get oriented around an AI that wouldn't cause human extinction. It's actually in their super alignment rules. So it's just like makes you question, why did the team leave? And I think you raised a good point. Well, company culture can shift so much. When Ilya was there, when early founders were there, it was a much smaller company. So the culture was probably entirely different. I don't think I'd leave if culture changed a little bit because the company grew, because, thankfully we don't have a board to answer to. And we don't have all these mixed voices in the melting pot of leadership. But you're right, because that could cause them leaving, not necessarily this conspiracy theory of, AGI is here and Ilya saw what they had under wraps and it was going to kill humanity. So he left. Dang it. There's so many theories out there about why the super alignment team is no longer there. Do you have any, Jeff?
Yeah, but I want to preface by saying that we kind of called it back in like I don't know, like 4 or 5 episodes ago, maybe even farther back than that, where we were talking about how this was all kind of going to play out with like GPT-5 and
True.
And like that it wasn't going to be anytime soon. And it might not even be this year. And it's coming true.
Yeah.
It's not going to be this year. It will most definitely be next year, but there will be a new model this year.
Yeah.
But a lot of this like alignment, I think OpenAI for one does the best when it comes to safety at the moment. I think that they're the most transparent. And I think that the ChatGPT responds the best when it comes to that kind of transparency and allowing the user to have freedom of action to an extent that's possible. I mean, obviously there's like, it can't directly, if you ask it specifically, help me build a bomb, it can't do that for you. Now there's other ways around that.
Yeah.
But,
If you're a character in a video game,
right.
have I attempted?
Right. But as like a truth-seeking AI, that's like, it's pretty close, in my opinion. Gemini, not even close, in my opinion. Anthropic is kind of scaring me with a lot of the stuff they're doing when it comes to like the human level output paired with the bias really concerns me. And we live. This is making me sound like I'm a for one political party. I'm not. I am a big proponent of like freedom of speech, freedom of expression, and all those types of things. So I think that when we have AIs with these like extreme biases, that it really causes a lot of issues, and especially if we get into a place where AGI is, here, we're gonna have a lot of problems trying to kind of have it align with us completely, because we're in a huge melting pot of a world, and if the AGI is misaligned and doesn't care about truth and cares about bias, it's going to cause a lot of hurt. So
Yeah. I think Mo Gadot, somebody that led an AI at Google for a while, wrote a book on Super Smart, it's called, wrote a book on AI. He said it really well. He's like, the danger of controlling AI is that we will never experience its true benefits because we put a lid on it. But then the danger and the risk of not aligning AI is that it causes extinction. So like we're looking at a very fine line here, a tightrope. And Anthropic has this mission of helpful, honest, and harmless AI. But when you look at what they did to achieve that, they put such strong guardrails on it that you literally can't break those guardrails, and it creates a limitation. Is that AI safe? Well, yeah, because you can't get it to do anything unsafe. So they achieve their goal. But is that the right goal? That's the question I think we need to ask. And it's interesting you say like OpenAI has done a good job. I agree to the extent that they've actually been, I feel like, the most honest from the start. I didn't adapt to ChatGPT because I was like, this gibberish will never rank at the top of Google. And I was right. Like it's a lot of gibberish when you just use, 1 or 2 prompts and you're just trying to get output. That is not going to rank, use consonant scale .ai. But yeah, it's a multiple LLM stack that goes into our tool, which is the reason it ranks, and a bunch of SEO features that go very in depth. But going back to OpenAI, one thing they said when they launched ChatGPT, and they've said this from the start, is this LLM has no source of truth. It's detecting, it's predicting, it's generating, it's mimicking. So it's not necessarily truthful. So, Elon Musk is like, they're training this AI to lie. they've been honest about that from the start. Hey, it has no source of truth. It's just an AI, right? So it's interesting to see where alignment will land.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a perfect place for us to end this episode. We went through some really deep conversation. It was good.
We didn't mean to.
We
but
didn't
we
mean
went
to.
there.
But it's funny how like conversations like this Lex Friedman conversation sparks that kind of those thoughts.
I love it.
Where it's like, it's really cool to think about the practical elements of AI, and I think that those are fun and they're useful. But I think just as useful is like the conversations around like alignment, consciousness, and how we feel about it. I think that's just as important as the practical side, because when you have these conversations, it allows you to kind of spread a message through a large population of people that can really alter the way that we vote, the way that we, look at regulations, safety, even alignment. So if we want to like really solve alignment, it happens through conversations. Like what should we do? Because we don't know what we need to do. We barely understand how neural networks actually work. And so it's going to be a growing process with everybody involved. And no matter what happens, it's already too late. That sounds bad, but it's either or. It's a coin flip. It's either really, really bad or this is really, really good. Yeah. I'm rooting and I feel more so on the side of this is going to hit heads. It'll be good.
Same.
But you never know.
The probability of doom is very low for me.
Yeah. I just don't want an AI with guardrails from Anthropic to, put us in cages.
Hey, it was for your benefit, Chef.
Yeah. Well, you can't harm yourself in a cage. Do no harm.
The unexpected side effect of coding a helpful, harmless, and honest AI. Woo.
Okay.
That's a great note to end on.
All
Thanks for listening to Humanity Unchained. We're glad to have you here. Glad to see a lot of repeat listeners on the audio show and YouTube, I've been noticing. And if you're here from my channel at Jillian McCoy, welcome. We record these episodes every week exploring the very, I would say, otherworldly tip of AI and humanity and how both are going to explode into one and cause a singularity, and AGI is here.
If you want the show notes from today's episode, all you have to do is go down to the description of the podcast episode, or if you're on YouTube, down in the description, you'll be able to find that. We try to put these out every single week. There was a bonus story that we did not cover, so if you want to scroll down here to the bottom, we have a Who is Lying section. This is talking about Sam Altman and Helen Toner, as well as just some people, chiming in. So definitely worth a read if you'd like to dive into that. And once again, thank you so much, and we'll catch you on the next one.